Normally I wouldn't read out a statement, but I think it's important that we get all the facts sort of on the timeline and everything, so we don't miss something. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media here and those joining us online, to everyone watching or listening to this across South Africa and the rest of the international community that has shown tremendous interest and support in this case, good morning. Thank you for honouring this press conference this morning. For those of you who are first-time visitors, welcome to Loftus. It was 22 days ago now that we began to live in a world where our reality was something never thought nor could ever anticipate being our reality. What started as a simple non-appearance for training on Monday, 14 November, quickly became a serious case of a missing player. 4 days later, on the 17th of November, having failed to reach S'bu directly through his known channels and numerous visits to his known address here in Pretoria, we mandated our senior team manager to rope in the police. We encountered a few challenges in this regard because we are not immediate family, but we insisted in continuing our search for S'bu because we are family, and frankly consider all those who form part of the Vodacom Bulls as family. Whilst everyone in this company who had contact with S'bu tried to reach him, whether it be via text or phone calls, without success, we also reached out to our commercial partners to help us broaden the search as we grew in our worry. We know the realities of our beautiful country, and that elevated our concerns for the well-being of S'bu. We are confident that we could locate S'bu without causing public panic, but this did not pan out that way, with the story breaking through the media over the weekend. That meant we needed to fast-track how we deploy the resources we have, but still strategic enough to give us the best chance of finding S'bu. Perhaps our search for S'bu picked up defining momentum when SSG called, offering their tactical support, which offers state-of-the-art intelligence services that led us to, one, verifying the authenticity of some of the tips we were receiving, and two, whilst also helping us identify new possible leads. On Monday, 5 December, we, alongside SSG, travelled to a location we were confident we could find S'bu. Not knowing who or what waited for us, but willing to take the chance if it meant we could find him. Once we reached the town, we stopped at the local police station to solicit their help, but we were unsuccessful in this regard, with the police citing that we are not family and thus we cannot intervene. A decision they took after about 2 hours of hard negotiations. Again, SSG stepped up their support to us as the Vodacom Bulls and gave us cover that we needed to go knocking at doors we thought where S'bu might be. At approximately 1:30, we arrived at the location and began to knock, call and pray that we could at least assist S'bu. Fortuitously, as we were considering moving to another address, his father-in-law pulled up to the gate, assuming that he was coming for a visit, and he confirmed that S'bu was indeed inside the home, having last seen him on Wednesday, 30 November 2022. That spurred us on as we waited with hope that could not be dampened by the rain. At approximately 2 minutes after 2, S'bu stepped out the gate and opened it without hesitation or resistance. We shared brief pleasantries because of the pouring rain, and he invited me inside, where we spent about 40 minutes speaking. Specific contents of our conversation I cannot share. I'm sure we can all understand, but in summary, it was important for me to establish that he was okay, safe and unharmed. Pursuant to that, it was important to try and understand where he is at and what has led to his decision, and how we as a company and rugby family can support him. We were thrilled to find S'bu and incredibly relieved to see that he was alive. Equally, we were saddened to see him in the state that he was in, a gentle soul who was somewhat seen in a light dim owing to his current well-being. I'm however confident that we are in a good position to provide S'bu with the support he needs, and that we should acknowledge his incredible courage to even say to us that he is not okay. Because he does not owe us that, and yet he did. A valuable lesson for me and those around S'bu, and one day this story will champion and empower other men to have the courage and come out and say that I'm not okay. We would like to thank South Africans who joined us in prayer and those who asked how they could help. Thank you for those who used the media stables to help us spread the message. Now that S'bu is found and is going to be getting support that he needs, we ask that we as the community around him, please offer him the space and privacy he needs to work on rebuilding his confidence and return to the S'bu we all know and love. Let us be kind and desist from making untoward remarks to what may only be harmful towards him and others in a similar position that have not found the courage to seek help. Finally, to all of you who are watching this, or who will have the opportunity to hear this, please be encouraged that it's okay not to feel okay. Seeking out help does not make you weak or less valuable. It is my belief that it makes you stronger, and it shows that you are brave enough to seek support, so please seek support. We as the Vodacom Bulls will now be exploring, alongside our supportive partners, support mechanisms that we can introduce in our rugby community, and this is hopefully the start of something great for South African rugby, because we are lucky today, but tomorrow intervention might be too late, and it's not something we want to be seen to become a reality. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ed. We will start with questions on the floor for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the appetite, and then we will come to everybody that is online, offer you the same courtesy, 10 to about 15 minutes. Perhaps by a show of hand, we could see who will take the first round. Brendan, you'll go first. Front row.
And just first of all, where is S'bu now? Is he still with his parents?
Correct.
And what is the timeline going forward? I know it's a difficult thing to.
Yeah.
But in terms of the support, when do you expect him to be back at Loftus?
Look, Brendan, I think at this time it's difficult to put a timeline on it. I think we need to give him his space to get back to full health. We are arranging support and for the time that he's ready to get that support. And we are there to give him his space. And as I said to him yesterday as well, our goal is to get him back on a rugby field and feeling like a champion again. And even if that means that's not at the Vodacom Bulls and he needs to have a new start, then that's fine. But it's our job to get him ready.
Just in your statement, you mentioned as well that you are hoping to find him alive. Obviously, the tip-offs you got has gotten information you got. I don't know if you can speak a bit about that. What made you feel that it might be a different course? I mean, was there something that came through in that information you received?
Brendan, I think it's not. The tip-offs actually made us feel a bit more sort of confident that we would find him alive. I think the realities of living in South Africa, of what we've seen in the past with other rugby players, obviously you have that concern, and that was again why it was an unbelievable relief to see him yesterday alive and well.
Cool. We'll go to the back and then we'll come to you.
I'm Meyer from Pretoria FM.
Yes.
You spoke about support mechanisms that you want to introduce in the rugby community. Is there a concern that maybe the players are maybe playing too much rugby and that there's not enough focus on their mental well-being?
Yeah, look, I mean, there is fantastic support structures in place through my players and even us here with our own team psychologists and that. But I think this is just a wake-up call for everybody in sports again. I mean, in a space of I think about 12 months, we've now seen Michael Hooper withdrawing. We've seen Ben Stokes withdrawing. So I think it's a reality of professional sport. These are not machines; they're human beings. And there's a tremendous pressure from a day-to-day basis on them to perform. So I think it's just a wake-up call for all sports.
Follow-up question? You good? Cool. Ramashak.
Just to put on the record, there are no discussions by the Blue Bulls at the moment to terminate his contract, but instead you are going to give him all the necessary support to get back on the field and play for the Bulls again.
Correct.
There's been a lot of questions. Sorry, you explained the timelines. There's been a lot of questions directed, at the Bulls in terms of how the situation was handled and the time it took to come forward with this missing information. Are you comfortable with the way you handled it? Could it have been better handled?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're not we're not trained for scenarios like this. And yes, I'm sure we made mistakes along the way, but I think what we need to keep in mind through all of this is there's a player's reputation that needed to be managed as well, and then obviously his safety is also a concern. So I mean, it's finding the balance between those two elements. I mean, I think the steps that we took in terms of visiting all these known residences, contacting family members, I mean, myself phoning him basically every day on all the known numbers that we've got, in the end led us to the police, unfortunately, where, yeah, I mean, help wasn't really forthcoming. And then, like I said, luckily for us, our partners SSG stepped in and really gave this thing momentum, and the media, I mean, you guys as well, and that 48 hours later we were able to find them.
So I was just going to say on the follow-up on S'bu's question, and also just to place it on the record, because as you know, there have been stories about S'bu in the past, disciplinary problems, why he left the Sharks, things like that. There was nothing in terms of that led to this situation.
No.
Percy?
Sorry, Mr. Felix, I want to ask a similar question. And can I ask you this question? You mentioned the fact that you guys are now going to give him support now. Why only now for a big union? Sorry, I need to be fair towards
Sure.
you, CEO, and as the Global Rugby Union. But as rugby, why only now? Why did it need this situation for a rugby union, a prominent big rugby union like the Patriots, to now suddenly decide we need to give a player support? Don't you guys in general give players support, mental support?
So that's the point I made earlier, Percy. I think, I mean, through my players, there's a massive support structure, and they actually do mental health screening on players on a regular basis. I think we're one of the few unions that actually employ a full-time psychologist. I mean, again, I'm not saying we haven't done enough. I think it's just sort of looking at yourself again and saying, what more could you have done? And how can we ramp that up? So there is support structures in place, but maybe we could even make that better.
Can I then ask you this as a follow-up question? Is the case of a worker, employer who works here, in this case a player, having to come to the union or to the psychologist, or is the case of where a coach or possible manager can see, but hang on, we're seeing there's possible signs of problems with this employer of us, we need to step in and help this player? Is it from both sides, or do you guys have a responsibility to look at your clients, your employees?
Yeah, look, Percy, I think it probably lies on both sides. You know, it's like in any relationship, whether it's with you, with your family or something, there's always a responsibility from both parties to basically either pick it up or someone to say, listen, I'm struggling with something. Us as men are very good at it, to hide stuff away and sort of make as if everything is fine. And I think that's obviously a flaw of us, and that's why I commend S'bu for saying, listen, I'm not okay.
And just sorry.
We'll go S'bu and then we'll come to you, Brendan. Cool, thanks.
What are the thoughts of the director of rugby, Jake White? You know, he's got an elite Springbok who, you know, struggled a bit to make team meetings and stuff like that, and then before disappearing off the radar completely. I mean, he's still got a team that must perform. I understand that S'bu's well-being is the highest priority. What is his view now that he's been located and found?
Look, I mean, again, I think at this stage, our concern is not for S'bu, the rugby player, it's for S'bu, the person. Jake obviously has a job to do and prepare a team this weekend. To say that he's missed team meetings in the plural is exaggerating. He missed one meeting and was disciplined for that. But obviously Jake's known S'bu for a long time as well. And at this stage our concern is for S'bu, the person, and not the rugby player.
Just on that, I mean, you say obviously Jake's got a team to prepare for this weekend. It's probably one of your biggest games of the year coming up. How's this whole thing affected the rest of the squad, and are there other things you're putting in place if anybody else has
Yeah.
been affected in general, I suppose.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, if it's one of your teammates, it's like a family member that first disappeared, but luckily now found, and concerns for his mental well-being. So obviously, I mean, we're all human beings that has an effect on you, and again, that's why Dr. Erin Gericke and the team will have to play a big part in the mental preparation and making sure that our team is in a good mental space.
Cool. Last one on the floor, then we go online. Okay, cool. Follow up.
No, sorry. Go for, okay.
Yeah.
Edgar, just sorry on your, and I know this is a difficult one for
Yeah.
you, but as you say, and I think it's a reality of this country, that you didn't get the support that you needed from the SAPS, and obviously not everyone's as lucky as to have the resources that you guys have
Yeah.
at SSG. That obviously is disappointing, but that's a huge problem, I suppose, in a bigger context in this country.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously they're following process in the sense that missing persons must be declared missing by family members, and that's possibly a flaw in our system. But yeah, it was frustrating, to say the least. But again, it worked out in the end.
Cool. We'll come to our colleagues online. Simon, we'll start with you, and then after you, Craig, you can take the floor. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, guys. Good morning. There is a hell of a lot of emotion in this, and I do agree, and I have sympathy for that. But there's also another way that you have to look at this. This is, and you've touched on that, especially as far as the contract is concerned. And that brings me to the question: is there a discussion or a period of discussion or a few steps of discussion regarding his responsibility towards the employer's responsibility that you're going to have with him, akin to something like performance appraisal, like a sort of a discipline type of a discussion with him, to get him acquainted to the fact that there is, besides the emotion, a factual situation and a factual relationship as well with the employer.
Yeah, Simon, I mean, you're 100% correct. I mean, he's an employee of the company, and being absent without leave for 3 weeks does have consequences. But again, I think at this stage we're really missing the point if our concern is whether he's going to have a contract at the Bulls or not. We've got a player that's struggling with mental health issues and going through a really rough patch. And that should be our concern, is how do we get him on his feet again, and he can stand up and become the superstar rugby player that we all know he is.
Thanks, Simon. Craig?
Hi, thanks very much, Edgar. I guess the touching on what's been asked already a little bit, but I mean, the fact that he was with his father, were there no sort of questions as to why someone from the family did not at least let you know that he was safe? So there's that. And secondly, I think in terms of mental health, I suppose it's a bit like any other type of issue. The person's got to want to change, got to want to seek help. Have you got that sense that S'bu does want to seek help at this point?
Yeah, Craig. I mean, first, just on your first point, I mean, S'bu does have a complicated family environment, which I really don't want to comment on any further. I think that's his privilege. But yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, any mental health issue or any problem that you have, you want to be helped. I got the sense that S'bu really wants to get back on his feet and be helped. At this stage, his dad is assisting him, and that's his safe space at this stage, to be with his dad and just be a son to a father for a bit, and not be S'bu Nkosi, the rugby player. And I think that's playing a healing element in his life. So we must respect that. But obviously, going forward, professional help will be needed as well.
Thanks.
Could I ask a follow-up?
Yes,
Sure.
you can, Craig.
Sorry, are there any other concerns for you in the background, besides mental health, that substance abuse or anything else? Have you had any indication of that?
Look, yeah, Craig, I think to go and speculate about that will be quite. I wouldn't like to do that. I mean, I looked a man in the eyes yesterday that I could see was hurting, and that's my reality.
Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Ashfaq?
Thanks, Lunga. Edgar, just in terms of, S'bu arriving at the Bulls, he had a press conference last year. He spoke so positively about joining the Bulls and working with Jake again. But of course, he had injury issues at the Sharks as well. And coming to the Bulls, it also took him a while to get back into the pitch. And he played the one game, made the Springbok squad, and was injured again against the Sharks. So has that also been sort of looked into in terms of his fitness and injury situation, which may have contributed to his mental challenges now?
Yeah, Ashfaq, I mean, as any sportsman, you go through highs and lows. I mean, S'bu made it very clear yesterday again that he was unbelievably excited to join the Vodacom Bulls, as this was his fresh start. As you say, I mean, he was injured when he got here, and we got him back onto the pitch, and he actually played very good rugby. The last injury was a rib injury, which I don't think you can condition a player for. And there must have been disappointment from his side to not be on that flight that night to go and join the Springboks because of this injury. That all plays a part. Again, we are not robots, we're not machines. We're human beings with emotions, and that goes up and down.
Follow up, Ashfaq?
I'm okay, thanks, Lunga.
Cool, thanks, Ashfaq. Ken? Remember to unmute, Ken.
Thanks, Lunga. How's it? Yes, sorry. I was unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear you, Ken.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks. Hi, Ken.
I can.
Was this episode, this unfortunate episode, triggered by just the pressures of rugby and obviously dealing with injuries and disappointment of not going on the Bok tour, things that played a part in this episode?
Yeah, you broke up a bit, Ken, there, but I mean, yeah, I get the question was this just an unfortunate episode of sort of cumulative circumstances, and I think that's exactly what we're dealing with. Again, I think we need to understand that, I mean, S'bu probably came onto the scene at a very young age, at 20, left his parents' house at a very young, even a younger age, to pursue a dream of going to JP and being a professional sportsman. That does have its pressure. He's a World Cup winner at the age of 22, 23. Yeah, so I think in the end, it just adds up.
Follow-up question, Ken? In the
good, thank you.
Cool, thanks, Ken. Lennox?
Hi, Linda. Hi, Edgar. Just a quick question on my side. I think, like you mentioned earlier, that you do have a resident psychologist within the Bulls, but I'm just wondering in terms of what can the rugby community do to ensure that we get rid of the stigma associated with speaking out, so we can sort of catch people, give people help earlier before it's too late. Because I think that, like you mentioned, not all franchises have that support, but how can you create a safe environment for our superstars?
Yeah, thanks, Lennox. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you've got the my players element of that to it as well. I mean, I had a long conversation with Eugene Henning, their CEO, last night around exactly that. How do we ramp up what we're doing currently? Like I said, they do screenings with players. There is helplines for players. There's all sorts of things in place. But it's probably just re-looking all of that again and seeing where we can improve.
Follow-up, Lennox?
No, follow-up, so good.
Cool, thanks. Jan?
Thank you, Lunga. Thank you, Edgar. It's just a short question. We're living in a country of many different facets. One of those is the fanatical support we have and adoration for players. I mean, we build them up as superstars and kings and champions, and then we just as easily knock them down. Is there not an element of education for the fans to understand that these players also, just like you in your daily life, deal with situations? These players are the same. I mean, we see how nasty things get, especially in social media and environment of social media where we live.
Yeah, no, I think you make an unbelievably valid point. I mean, looking at comments on articles and social media, it's quite frightening that stones can be thrown so quickly at someone, and it's. I think we all need to sort of have a look at ourselves and say, well, I mean, everybody's going through stuff. We're not immune to it, and just have that little bit of respect that, again, as I said earlier, these rugby players aren't robots. They're not machines. They're human beings, and unfortunately, human beings read stuff. They read comments, and they're not immune to it.
Are you good, Jan?
I'm all good. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, guys online. We'll now come back to the floor. You good? Okay, Percy, we can have an African session, and then we'll give one final round of questions to the floor in English.
Lunga, thank you so much. Edgar, wil jy dalk 'n bietjie water drink? Ek wil net 'n
Nee, ek is reg. Ek gaan nie die hele statement kan vertaal nie.
Ek wil dit saam spesifiek voor my vraag vra. Ek is vreeslik dankbaar dat jy dit voor in die hoof, die tipe taal wat jy gebruik en die tipe van 'n toon wat jy gebruik. Want soos jy reg sê, ons as Afrikaners, ons het 'n manier om skielik net klip te gooi, ondanks om te weet wat die agtergrond van 'n persoon se storie is. Ja. Ons laaste paar maande ook gehoor van nog 'n internasionale prominente Suid-Afrikaanse speler wat ook 'n geweldige druk deurgaan. So baie dank vir die taal wat jy gebruik. Maar ek wil nie persoonlik raak nie. Kan ek vir jou dan vra egter, hoekom is vandag hier ter opsomming? Hoekom het julle gevoel julle moet hierdie perskonferensie rondom S'bu Nkosi hou?
Ja, ek dink dit is belangrik vir ons om al die feite op die tafel te sit van waarmee ons op die oomblik mee deel met S'bu. Wat was die proses wat ons gebring het tot en met vandag? Waar staan S'bu se kop? Waarmee wil ons hom help? Ek dink is belangrik dat ons daai goed vir die publiek sê. Jy weet, S'bu sukkel met geestesgesondheid op die oomblik, en ons moet hom ondersteun in dit, en ons moet hom op die regte pad weer kry.
Jy het gesê, toe julle gister by hom ontmoet, jy het geleentheid gehad om 40 met hom te sit. Jy is 'n bietjie hartseer gewees om te sien in die toestand wat hy was. Wat bedoel jy daarmee as jy sê jy is 'n bietjie hartseer om hom te sien? Ek
dink as mens in enigiemand se oë kyk wat seer het, en wat op 'n laagtepunt is in sy lewe, is dit hartseer. Jy weet, ek dink die emosie was eerstens net om te vind. Jy weet, soos ek vroeër gesê het, jy weet, ons lewe in 'n land van Suid-Afrika waar daar rugby spelers was wat nie gevind is nie, of wat in 'n baie erger omstandighede gevind is, jy weet, so. Ja, ek dink dit is 'n kombinasie van emosie van 3 weke se worry, en dan tweedens om te sien, maar hier sit 'n jong man met baie seer, wat gehelp moet word.
Ek het 'n voorlaaste vraag, dis die laaste Afrikaans spesiaal. Was daar enige tekens? Ek weet jy's 'n administrateur hierso, jy's so elke dag direk betrokke met spelers hierso nie. Was daar enige tekens wat sê byvoorbeeld die direkteur van rugby byvoorbeeld, julle meneer
Gerike
kon moontlik gesien het, of van die bestuur kon gesien het, hier tekens dat die speler is gesond, dat julle dalk uitgereik het met hom gehad?
Kyk, Henning het verskeie sessies in elk geval met hom gehad, jy weet, so ek dink dit was 'n aanpassing vir S'bu om te geskuif het en in 'n nuwe omgewing in te kom. Jy weet, nuwe blyplek, al daai tipe goed. So ek meen die aanpassing het ons hom probeer help deur dit. Hy het uit die aard van die saak gesukkel daarmee. Maar weer eens, ek dink op die einde van die dag, ons as mans sê nie regtig hoe erg het eintlik met jou gaan. Jy sal sê ek sukkel bietjie of maar jy is nie eerlik oor hoe sleg het regtig met jou gaan nie. En ek dink dis die belangrike les wat ons hieruit kan leer. is om te sê luister maar dit is okay om te sê is nie okay nie.
En laaste Afrikaanse vraag. Jy het verwys na die Australiese kaptein, verwys na die cricketkaptein. Kan ek jou vra? Jy het baie benadruk deur die hele Engels deel van jou perskonferensie. Daar het baie vrae gevra oor die kontrakdeel van hierdie spelers S'bu Nkosi, maar tog vandag beklemtoon julle die mense kant van S'bu Nkosi. Hoekom is dit vir julle as die Global Rugby Unie so belangrik en wat is die pad vorentoe met julle verhouding met S'bu Nkosi?
Persie, ek dink op die einde van die dag of S'bu vir die bulle speel en of hy vir 'n ander span speel, dis irrelevant op die oomblik. Dit gaan nie oor S'bu die rugby speler, dit gaan oor S'bu die mens en hoe ons die mens teruggryp op sy voete. Want dit is belangrik.
Happy, Percy? Cool.
I've got one Afrikaans question. Ek het nou gepraat oor 'n ondersteuningsstruktuur wat nodig is in die rugby gemeenskap. En hy het nou ook gepraat oor Michael Hooper. Dis dalk 'n ding wat mense eerder in sport in geheel moet na kyk, is om daardie geestesgesondheid van jou professionele sportspelers dalk beter na te gaan en daarna te kyk.
Dis 100% korrek. Ek dink hoe meer professioneel sport word en hoe meer dit in die sport in die kollig is en hoe meer sosiale media 'n rol speel en mense kommentaar 'n rol speel, hoe meer raak dit moet ons dit benadruk dat luister, hier spelers met emosies wat nie robots is nie en ons moet na hulle kyk.
Cool. Afrikaans happy? Cool. We'll now be doing Xhosa.
Okay, thank you.
We'll start at the back, come to S'bu, then come to Brandon. Thank you.
Andy Miley, Power FM. I know it might be too soon since S'bu was recently found, but I wanted to know that is there any specific roadmap in terms of the programs that he will undergo and maybe an opportunity to make mates and maybe lastly when can we expect him to get with the team program now?
Yeah, look, I think it's early days. As I said, I think he's in his safe space currently, just being a son to his dad and spending time with his dad. We will sort of arrange what we need to from our side in terms of help that he needs to get, and then it's following that process. You know, I mean, that could take, for some people that's a month, for some people that's 6 months. You never know. It depends on the depth of that they need to go into.
Sorry. So no follow-up question? Cool.
Sorry, just one thing. You know, we're talking about a Springbok as well. Have you guys had conversations with SA Rugby to broaden the conversation, you know, as the other custodians of the game in the country? I'm not sure if there's a contract at Springbok or not, but this would also extend to players, especially of that caliber.
No, you're right. So there hasn't been. I mean, there are no contracts at Springboks currently. All are contracted by the provinces with pony agreements in place. But again, it sort of goes back to my previous point, is that our concern currently isn't the rugby player, it's the person. But those conversations will happen with Charles Wessels and Rassie and Jock to see obviously where they can assist, but also what the plans are going forward.
S'bu, follow up. Cool. Brandon?
That was basically my question, but I just while we're talking about it, I mean, we're sitting with a situation with this is not, as you say, you've mentioned Michael Hooper.
Yeah.
We've had similar, or maybe a bit different, the whole situation with Elton Yankees, who's also a World Cup winning Springbok. Now, that do you how much further does rugby need to go in this? Do you feel it's sufficient what's in place, or do you think it needs to go further?
No. I mean, I think that was part of my opening statement. I think it's a reality check. It's where we need to review what we're doing and possibly ramp it up. It's national assets that's going through tough times. That we need to find support structures for them that will make a real difference at the end of the day.
Sorted. Any more questions? Let's check online. Yes, Percy, go.
Sorry, just a random question. Can I ask you though, as much as sorry, we are talking about a personal player and his personal well-being at the moment.
Yeah.
You guys as administrators, you guys are under pressure to deliver goods here at this unit. This still remains a business. You guys need to deliver. Well, you will say you guys need to deliver goods. You need to deliver the results on the field though. Is that not a lot of pressure on you guys, then to put pressure on players like a S'bu Nkosi then to deliver?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the nature of what we all signed up for. That unlike office job in the middle of Johannesburg or in Sandton, we win and lose every Saturday, and that is pressures that we need to deal with. But again, that's something you have signed up for, and if you need help with managing through that, then that help needs to be there for you.
Anybody online with questions before we close? Okay, silence is golden.
Well, good.
Ladies.